everybody. I think we're ready to get started. I see 2 empty tables up front. How about some of the people in the way back coming to the front seats? Come on up. Thank you, Ryan. Who's going to join Ryan up here? He's good to network with. Ryan, Dean, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dean. By the end of this conference, none of you will be shy with each other. Just wait for some last-minute stragglers. And then we can close the doors in the back. And then we're hermetically sealed together. Well, welcome everybody. I had a dream early this morning that I couldn't get here. I was in a white minivan in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I was calling Scott. I couldn't reach him. I was calling David Sharp, the CEO of our company. Couldn't reach him. I was crying. I was in tears. I said, I'm a failure. And then I realized that I could wake up. So I did. And shook that off and got dressed, and here I am. Welcome to Boulder, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Well, my name is Martha Lubo, and many of you know me as the Director of Marketing, Synergis Software, and as the signature at the bottom of the email of this endless stream of emails that come into your inbox daily, weekly, and monthly, and also as the person who calls you often for an interview or maybe a favor. But there is a persona that you do not know about me, because I am super horsewoman. And yes, that is me up on that white steed. My superpower is my smile. And my shield is a horse, always, who carries me across the lands through thick and thin to protect all of you and my colleagues. So, enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about all of you. And again, thank you so much for coming. Some of you came from long distances. We are representatives from 2 countries, 32 states, and the longest distance traveler is Melissa Hazelwood. Where's Melissa? Raise your hand. Yay, Melissa. Melissa came from Lakeside, Nova Scotia, and not only is she the longest distance traveler, she took the longest time to get here. Was that 11 or 12 hours? I think it was 14. So she had a couple of delayed mechanical issues with planes, but thank you, Melissa. You got here. So this week, you're all in good company. We've got a lot of people who are from many different industries. It will probably surprise you all. We've got people who are from the utility industry, from energy, from manufacturing, process plant and chemical, some people in engineering services, oil and gas. Where's Clarence? Is he here? Hey, Clarence, good to see you. Missed you last year. Pharma and medical devices, and also from government and education. And actually here are kind of the logos of all the company that are here and represented today. And you'll see some big name brands, Amazon, Raytheon, Merck, and some lesser known brands. But the one unifying piece is that all of you are using Adept in many different ways. And this week is a great opportunity to really connect with each other and find out how all of you are using Adept in all these different industries. How can that be? Well, you'll find out. And I'd like to take a moment just to celebrate all the people, the diehards, who have come for 4 years. Could I see a show of hands of people 4th year at Adept Experience? How about 3 years? 2 years? Oh, long. Oh, good. Okay, and then let's see a raised hands for everybody first year here. Great. Let's give a big shout out to all of our first-time guests. So we have about 85 people here. And if you might have guessed, Adept Experience is our favorite time of year. And for me personally, I get to work with many of the customers on presentations. Now, I don't know if they think that's fun, but I have a blast. And I want to thank all of you for your patience. These people have really gone beyond and above to prepare. And I've stressed them all out, but they're here, they're ready, and it's going to be some great presentations. And also, I get to meet a lot of people face to face that I've talked to on the phone, I've seen your name on badges, and this is the first time I get to meet you face to face, so that's pretty cool. And also, my colleagues. There are many people from Synergis that I don't see for a year. In fact, there's Brian Penny, raise your hand, Craig Schuler, where's Craig? Yay, and our good friend Jeffrey Newton, who flew in yesterday from where? Cairo. So we have a lot of road warriors in our presence, and the great thing is you'll get to mingle and talk with all of these folks this week. And it's also an opportunity, it's really important for us to celebrate what we've accomplished from year to year as individuals and as this whole wonderful community of Adept leaders. And I wanted to take a special opportunity, if I look straight into the camera, we have a live stream going to Synergis Technologies in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And I want to do a big shout out to everyone there in marketing, sales, services, support, finance, and development, without whom this conference would not take place. This is a really huge effort, and I really want to thank all of you. So let's give them a big shout out at home. Yay! Yay, team. And last but not least, I want to give a really big shout out to 2 people who weren't able to be here. They're on my team, on our team. They're Tara Meisey, our creative art director, and Patty Hubach, who is our marketing automation specialist. Without these 2 women, and their support for me, this would not have happened. So I hope they're on the live stream. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Patty. This is for you. And let's just give them one more round. Thank you. So the nightmare was not real. I am here. And that's my brief introduction to the morning. And now I'd like to introduce you to our fearless leader, Kristen Tomasic, President of Synergis Technologies, and one of my personal heroes. Thank you very much.
Martha. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Adept Experience 2019. This is, as Martha said, our favorite time of year, where we have an opportunity to spend a couple of days with all of you, our extended Synergis family. So thank you for being here in Boulder this week with us. So I just want to take this opportunity to tell a little bit about myself. I joined Synergis in 2001 after 11 years at Xerox Corporation. And when I started at Synergis, I was primarily involved and responsible for our sales within our sister division, which is known as Synergis Engineering Design Solutions. So So some of you may not know that we have two divisions because you're all very familiar with Synergis software and the folks that you work with very closely around Synergis Adept, and the folks back at home to whom we just gave a big shout out. So it's this group in Synergis software that's obviously responsible for developing our own proprietary software, Synergis Adept. But it's Synergis EDS, or the Engineering Design Solutions group, that is responsible for our Autodesk business. So some of you may not know that Synergis actually got its start as an Autodesk reseller back in 1985, and we sold our very first seat of AutoCAD back then, and we've been growing ever since. So this group is where I started, and I spent the first 13 years of my tenure at Synergis leading our Engineering Design Solutions group. And so I've had an opportunity to learn a lot about the industries that you're all working in and the amazing technologies that you get the honor of working with day in and day out. So within the last 2 years, I was appointed to my current role as president, and now I have the honor and the privilege of working with the folks in both of our amazing groups. So enough about me. Here we are at our 4th annual Adept Experience Conference, and as we were thinking about the event, there started to be this theme that emerged around Adept Experience. We started to listen to the stories that Martha was working on with our guest presenters. And then we heard the story our Keynote was going to be sharing with us. And then we also thought about the things that we thought you might be interested in hearing about Synergis and where we're going and some of the things we're working on within our organization. And the theme that emerged was that of transformation. So this year, Adept Experience is all about transformation. It's about personal transformation, it's about organizational transformation, and a little bit about what we're doing at Synergis. So let me start with personal transformation. So today, we have our keynote speaker. His name is Paul Szyarto. So Paul is the Chief Strategist and Data Officer with Bold Worldwide. And he's going to be joining us to share his inspirational and personal story of courage and transformation. So we're really excited to have him with us today. We also have our customers who will be sharing their stories about the organizational transformations and changes that they're driving within their businesses. And we are so thrilled to have them joining us here on the main stage because that's really the highlight of Adept Experience for all of us, to hear their stories. And then, as I said, we'll be talking a little bit about where Synergis is heading over the next couple days. So just to level set on what we mean when we're talking about transformation, we're defining it very simply as a change process with the ultimate goal of getting and achieving something better. But change is hard, right? For most organizations, this comic strip really illustrates the experience that people go through within that organization when it comes to change. Think about it. You ask an organization, who wants change? Pretty much everybody raises their hands. Who wants to change? That's a little harder, right, for people to change. And then ultimately, who wants to lead the change? Crickets. Okay. But we know that organizational transformation truly begins with a personal transformation. It starts by someone who has a vision for something better, for someone who sees that there's an opportunity for improvement within an organization. And so they go through their own little personal transformation to muster the courage and to take the first steps toward the change in what we call a personal transformation. So this is a journey. It's a process that we go through as individuals when we think about changes within our organization or even our lives on a personal level. And it truly starts with that self-assessment, right? Understanding where we are today and understanding where we want to be. So then we go on a vision quest. We go on an adventure to find and to achieve these things that we want to accomplish. And hopefully, we don't run into too many challenges, but as we said, change is hard, so challenges are inevitable. There's always folks who aren't always on board with the changes. And in some cases, sometimes along your journey, you're lucky enough to have a team of people who are working beside you to drive the change. And I know that's true for many of you in your organizations as you've driven change. But at some point, change happens, and you emerge victorious through this journey, and you see the transformation and change. And at the center of this all is someone who's driving that change. And for those of you who are familiar with the organization or the storytelling constructs about a hero's journey, that's ultimately what this is all about. And when we take a look, and I personally look out here at all of you, I see heroes. I see heroes within your organizations driving change, doing the tough work to implement new systems, new ways of working, and new ways of doing things with Synergis Adept. And so for that, we thank you. We thank you for being our heroes. So over the next 2 days, we hope that you'll be inspired toward personal transformation by your fellow heroes, by the other folks in this room who will be sharing their stories. Plus, have the opportunity to connect with other folks. And if you haven't yet, there's an app that we have called Guidebook. You can see any of us on the break. And in the Guidebook, we hope everybody goes within the application so that you can see and network with all the other folks who are here at the conference, so that not only will you have the opportunity to connect with them while you're here, but hopefully you can take the opportunity to connect with them outside of Adept Experience when you go back home. And then finally, we hope that if you do run into challenges along the way, that you ask Synergis for help, because that's why we're here. We are here to help. So Adept Experience is really the first step in your personal transformation and your organizational transformation in terms of your next phase of change. So as a thank you for being and leading that change within your organizations, we have this t-shirt for you. And ultimately, this was specially designed by our graphic artist, by Tara. And we hope you walk away and wear this proudly as a reminder of your own little inner superhero, so that you have the courage to go on and lead the change throughout your organizations when you get back. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. So let's move now to organizational transformation. And nothing excites us more at Synergis than hearing the stories from all of our customers about how you've gone from chaos to clarity, how you've moved your employees from being very frustrated to satisfied, and how you've taken your organizations from the status quo to being market leaders and disruptors. And it's really the highlight of the event when we hear from our customers, when they're sharing their stories. So over the next 2 days, we'll be hearing from the following folks: Mark Mefford from East Kentucky Power Co-op, from Jason Ramsey from North Alabama Fabrication Company, from Chris Wood of Dow Chemical, Ryan Mongeau from Space Age Electronics, and last but not least, Bob Burke from Con Edison. These 5 gentlemen will be sharing their stories. I'm not going to tell you what they're going to be talking about. We're going to let them unveil that as they take us through their presentations. But suffice it to say that not only does it take courage to drive and lead transformation, it takes courage to get up here and share your stories. So on behalf of all of us, I want to thank the folks who have agreed to present today. So thank you very much. Additionally, this year, we have the customer panel that we've held in previous years. And we're thrilled to have this esteemed group of panelists who will be sharing their insights and successes about Adept within their organizations. And so this will be a guided Q&A session after lunch, I believe it is today. And so we're really looking forward to these folks sharing their insights and giving you all an opportunity to ask questions of them that you might have. So thank you to this group as well. Additionally, today and tomorrow, you're going to be hearing stories from many of the Synergis team members. And you're going to be getting insights to new things that we've developed, new functionality that we're rolling out, not only in our Adept roadmap, but in terms of things that we have today that you could be using that maybe you're not using already within your organizations. And so we hope through the next 2 days, you're inspired to go deeper and learn a little bit more about the functionality that you may not have yet deployed within your companies. And then finally, if we think about many organizations, there are a lot of document-centric departments besides engineering and besides facilities folks or project management. sales and marketing and quality, very document-centric and file-centric organizations. So it's our hope that over the next couple of days, you're also thinking about ways you might be able to use Adept everywhere within your organizations, just as those some of our other presenters are doing as well. So we hope this inspires you to think differently there. So finally, let's talk a little bit about Synergis' transformation. And before I tell you about where we're going, let me tell you a little bit about where we are today. So Synergis software shipped its very first version of our engineering information management solution, now known as Synergis Adept, back in 1991. And we're pleased to say we have over 1,000 implementations with 75,000 users worldwide in 25 countries across 6 continents. So one of the very first things that we're doing to drive change within our organization is looking globally to support customers on a more global basis. And so really, if you think about it, for the first 20 to 25 years and working with Synergis Adept, we've been primarily focused in North America, in US and Canada. But over the last year, or 2 years really, one of our strategic initiatives was to drive growth globally through partnerships. And so we're very pleased to have a number of technology partners, one in particular who is OEMing Adept as part of their solution, and that company is known as Aries, and they've branded the Adept as Prism Docs. So they're rolling Prism Docs out as a part of their solution for capital project cost management. And that company was called Aries, so we're really excited about that partnership because that's giving us presence in other parts of the world. Additionally, we've had an initiative to bring on reseller partners, other folks within across the globe who are selling and supporting Adept. And so we're very pleased to share that now, through our expansion efforts, we have support in Australia, we have support in North Africa, parts of South Africa, across the Middle East, and most of Europe. So that's just one of the steps in the direction to change and grow Synergis software. So how many of you were here last year for Adept Experience? Right? Great. And how many of you remember Brian Cristiano? Okay. So Brian's keynote last year was on crushing silos. And there were 3 key takeaways that I walked away with because I took notes on this. First, share information openly, as if everybody needs to know the information. The second was to act as if someone else has the solution to your problem. And then the third thing was to frame your decisions by the question, will this help my customer? So if I'm totally honest, I walked away from last year's Adept Experience, and I heard all this. I internalized it, but I'm not quite sure we intentionally went after rolling things out this way. But as I started preparing for Adept Experience and I started thinking about the things at Synergis that we're doing differently now, and I referred back to my notes, surprisingly, this is some of the things that we've been doing internally within our organization. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. So first and foremost, share openly. Like we've never done before, we are communicating and collaborating across teams, across departments, across our entire organization, as well as with other folks and partners outside of Synergis like we've never done in our history. And it is making a difference. So if you are not doing this within your own organizations, you'll find that this is so powerful in being able to help drive change and to learn things that maybe you've never been exposed to before. So we've been crushing silos. And so we're acting as if other people had the solution to our problems, and ultimately had the solution to the problems that we're trying to help you all solve. And so with that initiative, we've been going outside of Synergis. We've been working with business mentors, folks like Brian Cristiano from Bold and Paul Szyarto, who is our keynote today. We're working with them more closely to give us additional insights to the business world and other things we could be doing, because they both come and have led multi-million-dollar organizations and have had exposure to things we just haven't had yet. Likewise, we're working very closely with some expert technologists, people who are looking at emerging technologies and ways that we can bring those emerging technologies to our solution set and in different combinations of solutions. So we're really excited about that. And I know Todd Cummings, our VP for Product Development, he's going to be talking about that a little bit more, I believe, tomorrow morning. So more on that front. And then finally, industry experts. Again, people who really understand the industries in which you're working. It helps us to understand more about the problems and challenges that you're facing when we're understanding, and then we can build solutions to meet those needs. So this is a little bit of what I'm talking about when I said we've been getting outside of Synergis and talking to all of you. For a few of you, I know Todd has been out to visit you recently. He's getting insights and input around some of the new things we're working on, which is really exciting. So that's a little bit about how we're changing as well as listening, with the laser focus on the solutions that are going to help you make a difference in your businesses. So to give you a sense of what this approach has done, tomorrow morning, after we talk about the Adept roadmap, Todd's going to lead a session on what's called Adept Labs. And this is a brand new session to Adept Experience. And this lab session is actually something that we're not going to be recording because this is something we would typically do with just a few select customers and under non-disclosure. But tomorrow we're going to be sharing openly with all of you because we want your input and we want to understand how you're feeling about the direction in which we're heading. So finally, Synergis' transformation is about growth. It's about growing globally. And I'm happy to say we are growing. We've acquired a lot more customers year over year, and we continue to grow so that we can continue to reinvest in the development of our solutions and continue to provide new technologies to all of you. We're crushing silos. We're getting outside of Synergis to talk to expert technologists and business mentors, and we're working in ways we've never worked before to combine different technologies to provide exceptional solutions for the future. So on behalf of all of us at Synergis, there is a buzz in our office that we haven't had yet and haven't had like we have now, because the excitement and the energy that everybody's feeling about the directions in which we're heading are really, really exciting and a lot of fun. So we hope you're going to be joining us on this journey over the next few years. So there you have it. Adept Experience is about transformation. You're going to hear stories of personal transformation, organizational transformation, and all the ways that Synergis will be evolving and changing. And so before I turn things over to Scott Lamond, our VP of Marketing and Partnerships, he's going to be taking you through an inspiration workbook. And there's one of them on all the tables. So for those of you who sat in the back, you probably don't have them, but we'll have to get some for you. This inspiration workbook is really intended to guide you through a self-assessment about where you are today and hopefully give you that inspiration and ideas about how you can transform your organizations in the future and what opportunities exist. So we hope that this guide is helpful to you throughout the next 2 days. So finally, I would be remiss if I didn't pause and thank you. Thank you for being here at Adept Experience. And thank you for the courage to lead your organizations through transformational change. And thank you for your business and for your loyalty. We could not do what we love to do if it weren't for all of you. So on behalf of all of us at Synergis, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. And hello, everyone. How y'all doing? All right? Everybody's settling in? Well, I just want to echo, it is just so great to be here with all of you finally, at last. An event like this, just mingling with folks last night, seeing you all here today, makes all the hard work that we do at Synergis and all the hard work it takes to prepare for Adept Experience worthwhile, very much worthwhile. And speaking of hard work and heroes, as Kristen was talking about, there's one person that I want to mention. Martha thanked her team But Martha Lubo, this conference would not happen without Martha. It goes all the way back a year ago to when we start planning for the next Adept Experience. And in these last 6 to 8 weeks, it really ramps up. So please join me with a huge thank you to Martha Lubo. Martha, please stand up. It is awesome to team with Martha on this. We all have so much fun, and I know all of you customers working with Martha just love that experience. So a little bit about myself. I've been with Synergis for a long time, like many of us that you'll hear speaking today and that you'll be interacting with. And I notice that I continually get reminded that I have gratitude, that I still feel grateful to be part of this team, part of the mission, and part of just having the opportunity to work with each of you. It's really, really rewarding, even 28 years into my career. I've had a number of different roles, mostly related to sales, marketing, and partnerships, and a few others going way back. But for me, it's the simple things really in life that make me happy, that bring me joy. And that really starts with family. My Synergis family, the people I work with, all of you are extended Synergis family. This is my girlfriend, Mani, several years. And it was actually, Mani and I were out here on vacation, and we stumbled upon the St. Julian. And so when Synergis began looking for a place to take Adept Experience on the road for the first time, this was certainly one of the places we checked out, and it's really neat to see it finally manifest. So, and that's Stella, our puppy, and I don't think Stella won't be presenting today, but all right, so all of you have this workbook. So if you take a look at that, I want to introduce you to that. First of all, does everyone have a copy of the workbook? Does anybody need one? We've got a few extras, I know. Looks like we're good. Everybody's good? All right. So we put this workbook together. It was an idea that came about really, honestly, about a week ago. So we scrambled, and it was one more thing on top of a long list of things. But we wanted you guys to have something you could take away from the event with you that allow you to capture your takeaways, that offered you our takeaways as well for each of the presentations, and hopefully something that allowed you an opportunity to think a little bit different and perhaps even be inspired to support you and inspire you to take action. So if you turn to page 7, actually, you'll see just a little example. For each presentation, you've got takeaways on the left, and then your notes and action items on the right. So you can reflect back on this at any point down the road. And now let's rewind back to page 1, if you would. And so to get started, we wanted each of you to just take a moment to reflect on your own current situation with Adept, to acknowledge where you are in your organization and what value the solution brings to you. So first question, and we're going to give you just a minute to think about that and then jot down where you're at. So what are the greatest benefits that your organization enjoys because of Adept? What are you, at the heart of it, what are you really getting from the solution? All right, looks like we're kind of there. So next question, kind of similar but a little bit different. What are the biggest failures or challenges that Adept helps you avoid? What are those disasters or just overwhelming obstacles that you'd be facing or that you were facing before you had Adept? All right. And then next, so on a scale of 1 to 10, rate Adept's value to your organization compared to its potential. So 1 equals low value, meaning there's much more to be had. You could be doing more with it. It could be optimized. It could be utilized in other areas. 10 meaning high value. We've fully optimized it. It's used everywhere. Where are you guys on that scale? So let me just ask for a show of hands. How many were in the range of 1 to 5 in terms of the value of Adept today? All right, decent portion, maybe half the room. How about 6 or 7? A lot of us, great. How about 8? Just 1? A couple, maybe a couple. 9? We have any 9s? Any 10s? All right, so we've got opportunity. We've got opportunity in the room. And we'll circle back on that. Actually, we'll kind of lead into that a little bit right now. So I love this quote that I heard at a Tony Robbins event going back several years. Breakthroughs must be sought out, hunted. So really today, Kristen talked about transformation. We're looking for those opportunities to break through, to do more, to make a bigger difference. So, is there an opportunity for transformation with Adept that can positively impact your company in the next 12 months? Is there one thing or maybe a couple of things that you see as those opportunities? Maybe to rise up out of the status quo and really make an even bigger difference. And then secondly, is this a transformation that you personally can lead or influence? Really just yes or no there. And then what, if anything, is holding you back from that kind of transformation? Maybe there's nothing holding you back. Maybe it's your role. Maybe it's budget. Maybe you're just too busy. And then last, if you could lead that kind of transformation for your company, what could that mean for you and for your organization? Gentlemen, many of you probably remember Steve Danasco. He's a good friend of mine that I've known for many years. Steve works at Green Tweed, and he started out, he saw he needed to solve a problem for Green Tweed. He took care of that. Then he saw a bigger issue for the whole enterprise. He went out and solved that. Then he integrated Adept with SAP in his organization. Steve moved up the organization at Green Tweed, and he's got that initiative. He's got that drive, and that's what we hope to inspire for all of you here. All right, so at this time, at your table, we're going to take just maybe a minute each to introduce yourself to the people sitting at your table. So your name, your company, what you guys do, your company does, your role in the company, and your role with Adept, how long you've been using the solution, and the single greatest benefit of Adept to your company. So go ahead. We'll give you a few minutes. How are you guys doing? I'm Scott. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Scott. I'm Donza. How are you?
Donza? Oh, who are you with again? I saw your... All right, we'll wrap it up in about 1 minute. All right. We'll pull it back together, guys. You'll have plenty of more opportunity to connect with each other and make some more new friends. Is there any, let's say, 1 or 2 tables that would like to share, or somebody from 1 or 2 tables who would like to share your what your greatest success or the greatest benefit that Adept is bringing to your company? So 1 or 2 folks want to share. Employment. Joe Gasper. Yes, go ahead. Ditto, okay.
Right now, I'm a one-woman show for the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. They just decided to do documentation
Love it, love it. Perfect. All right, so at this time, I want to introduce you to our keynote, Paul Szyarto. Paul's an incredibly successful parallel entrepreneur whose actions define what it means to leverage courage to realize transformation. Although Paul's from the chaos-filled streets of New Jersey, he's leveraged courage to transform his life into becoming an Oxford University and Wharton Business School educated Navy veteran. He's managed billions of dollars in capital, supported more than 1,000 clients with transformation, developed his own private equity firm that has supported almost 20 assets globally. So please join me with a very warm welcome for Paul Szyarto.
So I have to warn you, I woke up, my head is completely congested, so I'll do my best. I'm putting my tissues on the side. Scott's going to be sick later on. All right. Okay, so welcome to the Adept Experience, 2019's conference. I'm glad to be here with you all. And over the past several months, I've actually been working with Synergis on this grand transformation, and they asked me to come out here and speak to you all about, inspiring you to leverage the theme of this year's conference, which is transformation. I'm sick, guys. I'm loaded up on drugs. All right, it's transformation. All right. So for me, transformation has really been the center stone of who I am. Okay, it's really helped me succeed in every endeavor in my life. And what I'd like to do today is kind of go through what is transformation. I want to kind of set a baseline of what it is, and I've kind of categorized transformation into these 4 domains. So we're going to cover that, and we're going to walk through what is transformation, how does it affect you, and what do we really need to introduce transformation into our lives, into our businesses, to really succeed at the business of life. Sounds good? Okay. We all know that I'm a transformation expert. Scott gave me a great introduction, but there's a lot of things in my life that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to actually reveal some of this stuff today, okay? I'm going to do this through a discussion around some stories. I have a book coming out end of this year, and I'm going to reveal some things today. And hopefully this inspires you, and it helps you understand how to introduce transformation into your lives. So first, what is transformation? When we think of the word transformation, transformation is a change. It's a thorough or dramatic change in our lives or in our businesses, right? How many of you have gone through a major transformation in life? Pretty much everyone, right? And it really takes something to ensure that these transformations are successful. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to break down transformation. And I look at it as transformations broken out into these 4 different areas. Transformation could be chosen or forced. Transformation that is chosen could be positive or negative, right? Transformation that is forced can also be positive or negative. So let's kind of break this down so we understand how we can leverage transformation in our lives. So first, let's take a look at forced positive. The simple butterfly, right? So the butterfly doesn't ask to be created. It starts as this, I think it's kind of a creepy, ugly caterpillar, right? And it's on this tree, and what does it do? Pretty much just eats leaves, right? It eats leaves, and over time, nature forces it to transform into this larva and then into this amazing butterfly, right? So in this case, again, the butterfly didn't ask to transform. It was forced. But would we all agree that the transformation is rather positive? Yeah. So what about a chosen positive transformation? Has anyone ever been to Shanghai, China? When was the last time you were there? 2016. Who else? Last time you were there? 2018. So here's what's interesting about Shanghai, China. 20 years ago, what did it look like? What did it look like?
A lot of industrial buildings, not very many skyscrapers.
It was almost nothing, all right? It wasn't a pleasant place to visit, but the Chinese government, what did they do? They chose to transform the city into this. It went from this desolate area. There was nothing there. It was dull. There were no people. There was no growth. And they transformed it into what? Into this mega city that actually compares to New York City. And it's thriving. It's brilliant. It's vibrant, right? And would you consider this a positive change? Yeah. I mean, if you ask the Chinese people, they'd say it's amazing, right? So these are some positive aspects of transformation. So let's take a look at the negative aspects. So if we take a look at a forced negative transformation. So let's say, you're driving and, you got a green light and out of nowhere, bam, you're smacked on the side of the car and your life just completely changed, right? So in this case, this is what I like to call a forced negative transformation. You didn't ask for the accident to happen, right? It just happened. And what's the result of this accident? I mean, you could be mentally impaired, physically impaired. So one of your loved ones could have been compromised, right? So what do you have to do? You have to figure out a way to deal with this and live with this. So in this case, it's a negative, forced transformation. We didn't ask for it, but we got to deal with handle the cards we're dealt with, right? And then the last one is what? A chosen negative. So this is the one that really drives me insane about people, is that I sit back and I wonder why anyone would decide to put a needle with heroin in their arm, and the second this happens, what just happened to their lives? It just completely destroyed their lives, right? So in this case, this is a chosen negative because the second they move forward with this, their life is completely changed. It's transformed, right? And it's something that they can never recover from. But they made a choice. They chose to move forward with this. So let me ask you all, what type of transformation do you all prefer? What is it? Chosen positive, right? So, see, I thought you would say this. So chosen positive. So my challenge is, and when I speak with people about transformation, making big changes within their lives, whether it is getting a new job, starting their own business, doing something really big, something amazing, they all sit back and they say, it's so hard to make this choice. It's so hard to transform. So I'm wondering, why is it so hard to choose to make a dramatic change in your life or in your business? Why is this? Why? What do you think? Risk. Risk of what?
You're taking a known and giving it up for an unknown.
Okay. Anything else? Complacency. I like that. What is it? Fear. I'm going to agree with this gentleman here. So I think it really comes down to fear. I think we all really are afraid to make these dramatic transformations in our lives because we have a job. We may not like the job, but we're content. It pays the bills, right? And if we make a change to go try to find a new job or start our own business, what happens? Life is going to change. So what are we? We're afraid to move forward. We're afraid to make that change, right? And what does it take to really make a change in life, in your lives and within your businesses? What is it? What's required? Courage. I like that. So my philosophy is that all great things in life, all great transformations, really begin with courage. How many of you have courage in here? It's like everyone should have raised their hands because it's a trait. It's a human characteristic. We all have courage. Do we all leverage to use courage to make changes within our lives? Actually, not many of us, all right? Because we're so afraid of what might happen. So I want to understand what courage is. So I put together a series of pictures to help define what courage is. So courage to me, and courage to all of you should be, Have you ever heard of tank man? Courage is standing in front of a tank, okay, putting your body in front of this, 50-ton or 100-ton piece of machinery to essentially change the thinking of a government. This is courage. Does anyone know whatever happened to this man? He stood up there was a protest in Tiananmen Square, China in 1989, and no one actually knows what happened to him. People suspect he was eliminated by the Chinese government. But what did this picture do for society? It's a real defining moment of courage. That if we do things that we're afraid of, like you think this guy wasn't afraid to stand in front of a tank? Of course he was. He did it because he wanted to make change. He wanted to create real impact in the world. So he did it knowing what the possible consequences. Courage is storming the beaches of Normandy, right? So at this time, we came into the war. We had 18-year-old men that were being deployed. They were coming off these boats, and they knew it was what? It was imminent death the second they walked off these boats, right? But why did they do it? You think they weren't afraid? I would have been peeing my pants. They did it because they had courage. They chose to move forward. They chose to create a transformation because what was the outcome of this? Because these young men, they decided to move forward. What happened? We defeated a dictator. We transformed the world because these men and even the women, they were willing and able to move forward even knowing they were going to die that day. So it took courage. It takes courage not to give up your seat to a white man when you're tired from working all day, and the reason why you didn't do it is because you believe in equal rights. You believe that you are the same as them. You shouldn't have to give up your seat. So that's what happened with Rosa Parks, okay? She said, look, I'm tired. I believe in equality. I'm not giving up my seat. I shouldn't have to. And what happened that day? She was thrown in jail. She was fined. But what did this do? This introduced civil rights movement, equal rights movements. And what did she do? She pretty much transformed the world. These are chosen positive transformations. And if she didn't do that, where would we be today? Probably wouldn't be a nice world. And finally, this is a good picture. Even the cowardly lion, all right? He stood up to the strength and the wizardry of the Wizard of Oz, scared to death. But why did he do it? He did it to protect his friend Dorothy so she could have an opportunity to go back home and be with her family, right? So I think that's a really good example of things we do for other people selflessly. And we do it in a way where we don't care about the consequence. We're not afraid to move forward. We're actually deathly afraid to move forward. But we're not allowing that fear to control us. So for me, courage is the choice to confront the challenges of life, to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. Having courage will actually determine your success in life. Who wants to be fairly successful in this world? We all do. Right? So again, why are we so afraid to make that chosen positive transformation? Like, what could really happen? So what I'd like to do is, because no one really knows who I am, everyone's like, okay, who is this guy? He's an expert in business transformation. Where's his life experience with this? So I have to give a book plug. I have a book coming out, and what I wanted to do was kind of give you my background story of where this world of transformation came from, how I built courage to actually do the things that I've done in life. And people look at me, they go, oh, wow, he went to Oxford, he went to Wharton, he comes from a great background, he must have come from money and, great family values, and, he's just been given this great life. That's not the case. And I want to explain to you that I'm just like everyone else, all right? But I chose to leverage my courage to create transformation. So I'm going to go through a few stories, give you an idea of who I am. So I might get a little emotional, just a heads up. Okay, so a little bit about me. So before the time I was 17, I've moved 26 times. By the time today, I've moved 38 times. Why? My father was an abusive alcoholic and a drug trafficker, part of a tough family. So he would abuse my brothers and I in every way when we were younger. And although my mom was there, she would bust her butt working 3-4 jobs at times to ensure we had food on the table, okay? So it was actually a pretty crappy life, all right? It wasn't fun growing up. And by the time I was 17, I was actually forced to go into the Navy. A judge told me I had to go into the Navy. Any military folk? Got a couple. So I'm going to go through a story around that. And by the time I was 17, that was a major transformation for me, and it actually helped me become who I am. And today, I've generated $200-300 million in income. I have a private equity firm. I'm partners with Brian over here with Bold Worldwide. My goal is to try to take over the world, okay? That's my idea of transformation. But how did I get here? So I'm going to start with a little story of where courage really defined who I am today. So I'm about 4 years old, and we're living in New Jersey on Morris Avenue. And I remember this night, it was a crazy night. My dad came home. He was super, super intoxicated. He's just banging things up, punching holes in the walls, and he's screaming at us. He grabbed my brothers and I, brought us upstairs to our room, just beat the crap out of us, threw us into the beds, and he said, stay in your rooms. Slammed the door, and he ran downstairs. And as he was going downstairs, I could hear him punching holes in the walls. It was crazy for a kid to hear this. And my brothers and I just sat in bed crying, right? But I heard my dad yelling, he's going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And I'm sitting here as a kid, I'm like, oh my God. We're all crying, so I jumped out of bed, I put my ear to the door, and I hear my dad yelling at my mom, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy, So me, I'm deathly afraid. I don't know what to do. I'm 4 years old. So I open the door, and I start walking towards the banging. There was so much banging and screaming. And I found myself going down the steps. And I wound up in front of the kitchen. And I remember seeing my dad grasping my mom's hair with a gun to her neck. And he was saying to her, he's going to kill her tonight. He's going to blow her brains out. And I remember at that time, it was like really a defining moment for me. And most kids probably wouldn't be there, okay? They'd be up in their rooms with their brothers crying. And for some reason, I screamed out, please don't kill my mommy. And at that moment, my dad had my mom by the hair with the gun to her neck, and he looked at me. And his eyes were like yellow and like a rabid dog, and he was drooling. And I remember, instead of shooting my mom, he looked at me, he dropped the gun, threw my mom against the cabinets, and walked out and started shooting the gun in the air. So, interesting story. Why do I tell this story? I think it's my defining moment of courage because I was deathly afraid. And I made a choice to move forward and to say something at that time to my raging father. And if I didn't say something, what probably would have happened? My mom wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. And at that moment, I knew that courage, chosen courage, to use my courage, would actually transform my life. So, that's where I got into my head, wow, this really works. So you're all probably all wondering what happened to my dad. So fast forward a little bit, at 12 years old, my dad went to jail for attempted first-degree murder of my mom. He came to my house one night, and he just shot up my house. And again, my brothers and I and my mom, we all grouped together with courage, and we, fought through it. We transformed. We were able to succeed. And my dad went to Rahway State Prison for several years. So, tough story, huh? But that's what happens when you have courage. and when you're willing to transform a life, your life. I'll give you another story. This one's a little easier. For all of our military folk out there, we remember this day. So I was 17, so fast forward, 17 years old now. At this time, my dad's gone, luckily. My mom is, working 3 jobs, and I'm on my own, and I was actually I was a bouncer, right? At 17 years old, I was like 230 pounds. I was this big dude, and kind of looked like a tough guy with this bald head. So I would get paid to essentially beat people up. So when I remember this one night, we had a situation with this guy, Mike. Someone pulled a brass knuckles on this guy, and I jumped in, and I punched this guy, and unfortunately, I made a negative choice, transformational choice, and I fractured his skull. And sounds crazy, but a couple days later, I got arrested at 17 years old, and I was standing in front of a judge, and the judge said to me, the judge actually knew my dad. He knew my background, so he felt bad for me. And he said to me, look, son, I'm going to give you a choice. You're either going to go to jail or you're going to join the military. And I said to myself, wow, because of this chosen negative transformation in my life, now I'm stuck going to jail or the military. I didn't want to go to the military. So, of course, I sat down. I said, okay, I'll go to the military. And what did I do? I said, I'm going to go into the Marines. My dad was a Marine. My dad was a crazy Marine. And I remember I was just about to sign with the Marine Corps. And my uncle Hank called, and he's a senior chief of the Navy, and he goes, look, Paul, don't sign that document with the Marines. Just go chat with the Navy. I said, okay. Sergeant Ski, I got to speak with the Navy. So the next day I went to the Navy, sat with the Navy recruiter. Navy recruiter says, so you're going to sign with the Marines. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to be a sniper. I'm going to be an infantryman. And he goes, I think you're stupid. I said, okay. And he goes, you scored 90 within the 96th percentile on your ASVAB exam. I got an idea. Why don't you become a nuclear technician? At 17, you're a bouncer on the streets. What the hell? I said, I'll become a nuclear technician. I didn't know what the heck that meant. And I said, okay. I went from being an infantry sniperman to running nuclear, reactors. So I signed the paperwork at 17. My mom signed me up. And this isn't even the good part of the story yet. So now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, look, I signed the paper. This isn't going to happen. I went and I did my own thing. And I remember this is the point of transformation. The night of when the recruiter was about to come to my house. I'm 230 pounds, 6 foot. I'm the biggest, baddest dude in New Jersey. You know what I did that night? I cried the entire night. I cried like a baby because I knew the second that recruiter picked me up, my life was going to absolutely change. And I remember at 6 a.m., I was in my room, and I would sit there. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go, and I'm crying, and I just kept going, and I just kept moving. And courage forced me to get in that car because I knew it was going to be a chosen positive transformation for my life, because what was I going to be? A bouncer on the streets? I joined the Navy, and guess what? The Navy kicked my ass, all right? They slapped me around. They said, none of this is going to work, and they actually built my life. Without the Navy, again, I wouldn't be here. Without that major transformation in life, I wouldn't be here. So again, another big example of transformation. I'll just give you one more, all right? So this is, fast forward, I'm in the Navy. I did extremely well in the Navy, right? And, I went in as a nuclear tech, then I transferred to advanced electronics. Then they realized that I was a bouncer, and they go, hey, you could beat people up. So join the military side. So I was tracking terrorists a little bit. And I wound up out of Naples, Italy, where we were tracking terrorist groups. And I saw the planes hit the towers. I was sitting with my commanding officer, and I was like, hey, Commander Hayes, I'm getting out. right now. So like within a year, I was out of the Navy because I just didn't want to deal with it, and I wanted to build out in the civilian world. So fast forward now let's fast forward to when I'm 26. Like, where did my business side come out? So when I got out of the Navy, I was 22, 23 years old. And right away, I said, look, you know what I want to be? I want to be great one day. I want to take everything I learned in the Navy and be great. Yet no one wanted to hire me for what I knew in the Navy, or they wanted to pay me little money. So I said, let me be an entrepreneur. I'm going to try this entrepreneurial thing, and guess what? It kind of worked. I worked for a bank, I wrote some code, sold the asset, and I said, wow, this works. I could build things, and then people will buy them. So I did that for a few years, and then I got into building SAP systems. You guys ever hear of SAP? So I started implementing SAP globally, and I was making millions of dollars by the time I was 26 years old. I was a millionaire. I was doing extremely well. And I worked for a company, our friends at Bentley Systems. Do we all know Bentley? Yeah. So I actually worked with George Church and Greg Bentley to build out what's called the BSM, the Bentley Solutions Methodology, over a 4-year period. I actually helped build that. And I implemented the systems to manage Bentley. And I remember at the time, we had a problem. We had to integrate SAP with a system called PPM, Project Server. And there was no one in the United States that was able to do what I wanted. So, of course, I reached outside of the United States, and I found this small firm out of Munich, Germany. And this company, I thought they were crazy because everything I said, all they kept saying was, no problem, we could do it, no problem. And I'm like, okay, these guys are either really good or really stupid. So I hired them, and within 60 days, they built this complete system for Bentley, and I was just blown away. And at the same time, I started getting to know the owners of the company really well. And they turned to me and my buddy Robert, and they said, we want you to join the company. They were a 14-person team, small business out of Munich, Germany. And I was like, look, I'm doing extremely well right now. I don't need this company out of Germany. But they had a platform, this ETL platform, integration platform, and I said, wow, I could sell this. I could do really well with this. And my buddy Robert, he was partnering with me to come into the company together. And we said, we're going to take this global. We're going to make so much money. We're going to do really well. We're going to change companies. And we made an agreement. Robert and I were going to run North America and influence the global operation. So we sat down, we created a partnering agreement, and everything was good. But the day before, Robert came up to me and he goes, hey, Paul, I got a problem. We're about to fly ourselves to Munich, Germany to meet with this tiny company, and we don't know who they are. We don't know what they're going to do. They may put us on ice and take our kidneys, all right? We don't know what's going to happen when we go to Munich, Germany. He goes, I'm making a decision. I don't want to give up everything that I have. He said, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to move forward, Paul. I don't want to give up the lifestyle I have with my kids and the money that I make. And I said to myself, Robert, we made a commitment. We have to move forward. So he said, let's just think about it overnight, and we'll go from there tomorrow morning before we get on the flights. That night, I said to myself also, wow, what am I doing? What am I, nuts? I'm making millions of dollars. I'm doing really well. Why would I join this German company? What am I, stupid? And then the next morning when I met with Robert, I said to Robert, what did you decide? He goes, I'm not doing it. I'm not stupid. I'm not crazy. And I'm afraid. And I said to Robert, Robert, I respect that, but I'm going to move forward with it. And that day, I got on a plane, flew to Munich, Germany. The Germans, they were so pissed off, but they signed a contract with me to build out this ETL company. And within 2 years, I built it to over $100 million. And that was my first major endeavor into building a global organization with what? Courage made me do it. So if I didn't step forward, I would never have become the entrepreneur that I am today. I would never have built this mega company that I was able to sell, and then I invested into 2, 3, 4 other companies, and I invested into almost 20 plus assets right now. And all I do is I just step forward, knowing I'm deathly afraid, but if you don't step forward, nothing will ever happen, right? So the purpose of my story is it's not here to brag. It's not here to like make you feel bad for me. It's actually, my goal was to inspire you to have courage, all right? To really inspire you to, when you're afraid, don't be afraid, all right? It's okay to have that, that pit, that feeling in the pit of your stomach, but know that it's going to drive you to succeed. And know that the stories that I told today were just here to inspire you to create transformation, all right? In front of you, you have these workbooks, and I think these are amazing workbooks. And you have a section in there. What I want you to do is I want you to write down a challenge that you have to confront in your life, or that you did confront in your life. Something that may be coming, in the near future. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to identify how you're going to use courage to transform yourselves to really overcome that challenge. Now, since we're here at Adept, from what I understand, you've all done an amazing job with the platforms within your organizations. I think this is maybe an easy step towards major transformation, is how can you leverage Adept, the Adept solutions that you've implemented within your business units, how can you bring that and explode it within your organization to really advance your organization as a whole, to really succeed at this business of life, all right? I think that's low-hanging fruit. So I'll leave you all with this. Remember, no matter how challenging it may be to change, have courage and you will be successful. If you guys want more, you could always reach me at my website. And like I said, the book's coming out, so please order it. Cool, that's it for me, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, brother.